Okay. I'd like to look at with you today something incredible. And we touched on it last week. Because I can't see you, I will ask you just to simply call out a question. Because I'm not able.
The words are covered by this meeting is being recorded.
No, that's on your end. You have to click OK. So I'm going to ask you to just
click OK.
I'm going to ask you to just call out a question. I'll ask you to call out a question if you see if you see a question. 1 second. Maybe I can do that. Let me see if I can do that.
Recording in progress.
Do you hear me? There's now a horrible echo. Hold on. Can you hear me now? No.
With an echo.
Okay, that was not to be. So let me let's begin. We'll see what we are able to achieve, and we'll see what we're able to do. I'd like to talk to you about Amalek today, seen through the prism of classic philosophy, classic Jewish philosophy. And as you know, the villain of the Purim story is Haman. Haman is a descendant of Amalek. And as such, he comes from a particularly important line and a very important lineage. And our sages make a big deal out of the fact that Amalek is such an important nation. Let's take a look at some modern thinkers and philosophers and see if we can understand a little bit deeper about Amalek. We start with Rabbi Akiva text. Can you see the screen well? You can see these the text clearly?
Yes.
Okay, let's begin. This is taken from a book all of you should purchase. It's called Unmarsked. Unmarsked, text number 1, written by Akiva Tatz. It's one of the most important books you'll ever read. And I don't say that lightly. Let's begin. The Gemara asks, Haman min haTorah minayin. Where is Haman's name found in the Torah? The meaning of the Gemara's search for the name Haman in the Torah is this. What Haman represents must have its roots in the Torah. If we will locate his name in the Torah, we will be able to grasp his essence. We will be locating his spiritual genes. Stop there. Let me explain. There's 2 explanations I need just for that first introductory paragraph. The Purim story, as you remember, happens 1,000 years after the Torah is given, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Haman doesn't appear in the Torah anywhere. Haman is much later. The whole Purim story is later. Haman is after the Torah is given. Haman is not in the Torah. And yet the Talmud asks the question, where can we locate Haman in the Torah? So the Gemara is asking 2 things. Number 1, can you show me by a hint where Haman appears? Is there some type of hint, some type of maybe play on words where I can find the word Haman somehow, somewhere? And secondly, what the Gemara is getting at is if I can indeed find Haman hinted to in the Torah, then the precise location of where he appears in the Torah will teach me something about his essence. Because the first time any concept appears in the Torah, we are taught about the essence of that concept by virtue of it being the first time that it ever appears. Are you with me?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Now that what I just said is built on many assumptions, and I haven't gone into those assumptions. I might need explanations and explanations for my explanations. I might need an introduction for my introduction. But assuming all of what I just mentioned is something that you can follow, the Talmud is looking to find Haman as a concept, as an idea, not as a man, not as a person, as a philosophical idea, somehow or other in the Torah, and we believe the Torah is the basis of everything. And if we can find it, then where we can find it will teach us about the essence of what this idea is all about. I mean, we can stop there. That in and of itself is fascinating, correct?
Mhm.
We are used to thinking of Haman as a person. The Gemara is saying, I'm not interested in Haman, the human being, the discrete individual. I'm interested in, if we can find Haman in the Torah, what and who this concept represents, what it is in its essence. Look on a little further. This is amazing. The Gemara finds Haman's name close to the beginning of the Torah. After Adam eats from the forbidden fruit of the tree of knowledge, God appears in the garden and asks him, Hamin ha'etz? Did you eat from the tree? Now remember, in the Torah, are there vowels? Are there nukudot? Are there dots? Are there squiggles in the Torah? No. There are no vocalizations. There are no dots. There's no vowels in the Torah. And if you're going to ask the question, Hamin ha'etz, did you eat from the tree? That word, Hamin, if you take out the vowels Hamin, you know what you're left with? Hey, mem, nun.
Uh-huh.
Haman. Without vowels, the Torah is written, the word Haman.
Hanging from a tree.
Did you eat? No, it gets much better than that. It gets much better than that. Did you eat from the tree? What has, I'm reading again. What has this to do with Haman? The message being conveyed here must be fundamental because it is located in the beginning of creation. This is the beginning of transgression.
Mhm.
What Haman is in the world must somehow be intimately connected with the root of transgression itself. Isn't that amazing?
Mhm.
Yes.
Now you want to go and buy this book? I'm surprised if you haven't already ordered it on Amazon while I'm talking to you in a different browser. This is deep, deep stuff. This book, written by Akiva Tatz, this is as deep as it gets. You will love reading this book. I could do a whole course basically on this book.
Pin.
Okay, let's go on. This is going to blow your mind. Stay with me. This is amazing. This question, which God asks man. I just scrolled up. Do you now see where I'm reading? Text 2?
Yeah.
Okay. This question, which God asks man, did you eat from the tree? Is an expression of the distance which has come between man and his creator as a result of man's transgression. Adam has become so blind to reality, so confused, that he tells himself that he can hide from the one who sees all. Only moments before, he was in direct communication with his creator. Has he forgotten with whom he is dealing? No, he knows God. And that is precisely why he is hiding. Because he has entered the world of illusion. And in his guilt and shame before the master of the world, he somehow thinks he can hide from him. Adam has lost his clarity. In moving away from the creator, he has lost his vision and he has lost contact with the source of reality. But the consequence is much more bitter. God conducts himself in the same way. Now that Adam is hiding, pathetic and ridiculous as that may be, God plays by those rules that Adam has set up. Where are you? Says God, as if to say that the master of the universe cannot see him. Did you eat from the tree? as if to say that the master of the universe does not know. Doubt has entered the world. Perhaps it is possible to hide. Perhaps God doesn't see. Perhaps God doesn't know that man has transgressed. A gap has opened up between God and his creation. The gap, the chasm of doubt. And the name of that gap, the name of that doubt is Amalek. The source of Amalek has entered the world. Haman has been born. Wow. Wow. Comments? Questions? What do you think about that so far? Fascinating, right?
Yeah.
Bit of a stretch.
Bit of a stretch. Judy doesn't like it. So Judy, we will have another class, which will be the introduction to the introduction to the introduction. Because it's necessary to go through all of those introductions, because what we're dealing with now is Torah on its purest level. Do you remember in school there was math and then there was applied math?
Unfortunately, yes.
It was like the real deal. What I am sharing with you now is real Torah. And in the Torah, this is part of the introduction. I can't go into it for too long now. Part of the Torah is a framework for our reality. It's not just a rule book. It's so much more than a book of rules. It's actually describing existence. It's describing our world. It's describing our reality. So those simple stories of a Garden of Eden and a talking snake and a naked man and a woman who eat from a tree and hide, those are not children's stories. They can be understood by children. That's why it's such a genius piece of literature. 5-year-old can get it. But a sage who's 105, who spent their entire life learning Torah, can still plumb the depths of this wisdom to reveal deeper levels of understanding of the world we live in. Because the Torah is describing reality. The Torah is describing existence.
Doesn't it also imply that God has created imperfection, and reality is based on imperfection, not perfection? That there's no such thing as the ultimate truth other than what God might know, and that humans struggle to understand what it is and make errors in their conclusions. That's how I look at it.
Absolutely, you are absolutely correct. Everything you just said is absolutely correct. However, that is not what we are implying right now with the source that we have just looked at. You're correct, and you are not to be faulted at all. But the point that we are focused on right now is that when God speaks to Adam and says, "Did you eat from the tree?" That word, from the tree, Hamin ha'et, from the tree. Haman appears in that moment. And what is that moment? It's God speaking. And what is God's words? I don't know. Did you eat from a tree I commanded you not to eat from? Hey, where are you? What's happened? Well, this is God. All of these questions are God. What's happened? An all-knowing, all-powerful, all-seeing, all-eternal being has now entered into a world of, hey, what's going on? I'm not so sure. Where are you? Did you eat? Did you hide? I can't see you. And amazingly, what we are implying, or what Rabbi Akiva Tatz wants to claim, is that because Adam hides, and his mistake is he thinks he can hide, God responds in kind. That's the point I want to focus on. Because Adam has now made an epic error and mistake in thinking that God doesn't know, God acts and responds as if he doesn't. Hey, where are you? Where did you go? Are you hiding? Hey, did you eat from the tree I commanded you not to? That is a stunning observation. God relates to us the way we relate to God.
And the purpose of that?
Is to teach us the concept of Amalek. Well, the purpose of that is many things. How do we want to relate to God? Well, how would we like God to relate to us? That's in our hands. That's in our control. That's an amazing, empowering idea. If you want to live on the most purest of levels, being absolutely so righteous and full of faith that you walk with God, then he'll walk with you. And when we don't walk with God, when we have doubts about God even knowing who we are and what we're up to, that creates a gap. And this message at this point is that gap is what Amalek's essence is. Amalek's essence is doubt. Now, let me go a level deeper. Doubt is not the negation of God. Doubt is not an atheist. Doubt is not, I'm certain that God doesn't exist. No. Adam knows God exists. He's just unsure if God knows everything. He's just unsure if God can see him, so he's hiding from God. We have doubt in this world. I know God's there, but he's not going to notice. It's just a little bit of stealing. No one's going to know. I know there's a God. I pray to him, but it's just a little bit of a cheeseburger. No one's going to know, and so on and so forth. Our lives are built with, to some degree, an element of Amalek. Amazing, huh? Okay, if you're still with me and I haven't lost you yet, let's go deeper. I want to go a little bit deeper, okay? So let's go a little more. No, sorry. Let's go. Here we are. Here we are. Oh gosh. Hold on a moment. My goodness.
Good picture, Rabbi.
I missed it. Oh, okay. Oh, hang on. One moment. Okay. Can you see once again? Can you see my screen?
Yes, yes.
And is it big enough? Because once I'm
It's
on
fine.
this,
It's fine. It's fine.
it's just not working. I'm sorry. Is it big enough? Can you see it
It's
clearly?
perfect.
Number
Perfect.
3,
Okay. I'm sorry?
is it number
Yes,
3?
good
Number
size.
3.
Yeah.
Number 3. Okay. Now Amalek is in the Torah. Amalek is in the Torah. Who is Amalek? You will remember the Jewish people leave Egypt right after Pesach. We get our freedom. We travel through the desert. The sea splits. We cross the sea. We come out the other side. And then we're moaning there's no water. You remember that story?
Yes.
No water to drink. We complain. And immediately afterwards, the Jewish people get attacked. Immediately afterwards, the Jewish people get attacked. Who attacks them? A nation called Amalek.
Oh, it's a nation, not a person.
No.
Now it's a nation. It's a nation called Amalek. And the whole nation of Amalek attacks us. And we're told that they actually attacked the weakest individuals who are at the back, who are at the rear, who are tired. Now, if you go to But if you go to the very end of the Torah, Devarim 25, this is now text 3. We're not in the story of the attack of Amalek, but we're given an amazing mitzvah. At the very end of the Torah, Devarim 25, we are told the following. Remember what Amalek did to you by the journey, by the way, when you came forth out of Egypt, how he happened upon you by the way. The word by the way is a bad translation because it sounds like in English where you say, by the way, did you hear about it? Means on the road
Yes.
or on the path. It's just an old English word to use the word way for road or path. When he happened upon you on the road and struck you at your rear, all who were feeble behind you, when you were faint and weary, and he did not fear God. What do we see in that? Oh, sorry. And it continues. There's another line. What do we see? Therefore it shall be when the Lord your God has given you rest from all of your enemies around you, in the land which the Lord your God gives you for an inheritance, you shall blot out the remembrance of Amalek from under the heaven. Never forget this.
Isn't that a contradiction? She'll blot out the remembrance and then you shall not forget?
Yeah, it is. If you look at it like that, it's a contradiction. Blot out the remembrance, never forget. Well, if I'm never forgetting, then I'm always going to remember. How am I supposed to stop remembering? What it means is you should never forget that you have this mitzvah. Never forget that you have this mitzvah. In the end of days, when God will bring you into the land, you shall destroy the memory of Amalek. That's what it means. Throughout your generations, however long this story called world history takes, however long Jewish history takes, you must never forget this for the rest of your life. Never forget this. You must destroy Amalek. That's the sense of the mitzvah. Good? Okay. Let's take a look at text 4. Take a look at text 4. Let's see how we understand this. You're with me? It's good?
Yeah.
Okay, let's take a look. Text 4. Thank you. Before the advent of Amalek, there were two schools of thought. The nations believed that various powers ran the world, idols, demons, angels, etc. As an alternative, Abraham established the concept of monotheism in the world, a conviction that God controlled all events. Amalek introduced a third idea, belief in nothing. This is atheism, which posits that nothing special controls the world. Atheism is worse than idol worship. Idol worship is polytheism, the belief in many powers. It's possible to progress from many gods to belief in one God. However, Amalek denies that any power runs the world. It's all blind, accidental, happenstance. As Rabbi Tzadok says, they believe in nothing. From this position, it is most difficult to accept the Almighty God. What this Rabbi Zev Leff is teaching is the philosophy of Amalek. We're going a level deeper now. What does Amalek believe in? What is Amalek's philosophy? If you were to put Amalek in a chair and say, give me your CV, give me your resume, tell me, who are you? What are your core beliefs? They would tell you, this world is blind. This world is a world of accidental occurrences. This world is happenstance. This world is random. This world is chaotic. This is a world of chance.
He hasn't studied this world.
You should know, great scientists subscribe to this view today.
Mhm.
Now, this is the anti-Jewish belief. What is Amalek? He is the anti-Judaism. Now, I would say it slightly differently than source 4, than Rabbi Zev left. It's not that Amalek does not believe in God. Rather, he's saying God doesn't care about this world. God isn't involved in this world. God doesn't interact in this world. God leaves everything up to chance and randomness. That is who Amalek is. Now, Amalek appears in the Torah, as we just saw. He attacks the Jewish people when they come out of Egypt. But guess what? Amalek appears in the books of the Nevi'im, the prophets as well. Amalek appears in the times of Samuel, the prophet. Take a look at text 5. Do you see on your screen text 5?
Yes.
And Shaul defeated the Amalekites from Havilah to the approach to Shur, which is alongside Egypt. And he took Agag, the king of the Amalekites, alive. In the time of King Shaul, Israel's first king, this is in the days of the prophets. We're after the Torah now. Moshe has died. The Bnei Israel are inside the land of Israel. And what is happening? There is a war. And King Saul defeats the Amalekites. But there was one person he left over. And there was one person he left alive.
What's her name?
Who did King Saul leave alive?
The king, Agag.
Their king. What was the name of the king?
Agag.
Agag. The royal king Agag.
What was the name of the woman who killed him?
Does that sound familiar? Agag. Do you know how we refer to Haman when we read Haman's name in the Megillah of Esther? Do you know how we refer to Haman?
Agag.
Agag.
Yeah, Agag.
Look at text 6. After these things, King Achashverosh promoted Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite,
Jesus.
and advanced him and set his seat above all the princes who were with him. Oh my goodness. We have just been able to trace the bloodline of Haman. Who is Haman? He is the great, 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 great grandson of King Agag. Who is King Agag? He was the royal king of the nation of Amalek. Haman, in other words, is the latest expression, the scion of the dynasty of the very nation that is the antithesis of the Jewish people. Haman is the arch nemesis of the Jewish people. Fascinating. Fascinating. And now I'd like to go a step further. Rabbi Soloveitchik, the famous Rabbi Soloveitchik of Yeshiva University of New York at the 20th century, puts forward a very bold claim. Because the last time we see the nation of Amalek is in the story of Esther, which is over 2,000 years ago. Does Haman exist today? Does Amalek exist today? Does this nation Amalek still survive somehow today? Listen to what Rabbi Soloveitchik notes. Text 7. The Torah testifies that Amalek still exists in the world. This can be seen clearly by the verse which states, God wages war against Amalek throughout the generations. End quote. This is not a one-time nation. If God wages war against Amalek through all generations, continues Rabbi Soloveitchik, therefore, it is impossible for Amalek to be obliterated from this world until the Messianic age. But where are they? The answer I once heard from my father, my teacher, is that any nation that contrives to annihilate the Jewish nation assumes the halachic status of Amalek. Fascinating, right? Rabbi Soloveitchik wants to argue that if a nation should sociologically contrive to try and annihilate the Jewish people, then what? They have accepted upon themselves the status of Amalek. What do you think of that argument?
That's the only way I learned it.
Look at the following.
So
Frightening quote. Frightening quote. I won't even say his name. Text 8. The Jews have inflicted 2 wounds on mankind: circumcision on its body and conscience on its soul. They are Jewish inventions. I am freeing humanity from the shackles of the soul, from the degrading suffering caused by the false vision called conscience and ethics. The struggle for world domination will be fought entirely between us, between the Germans and the Jews. All else is facade and illusion. Frightening quote, huh?
Mhm.
Mhm.
Let me finish with something. This will be food for thought. I don't know if you've ever seen this before,
No.
but in the Megillah of Esther, some letters are large and some letters are small. Have you ever seen in a Sefer Torah before, we sometimes write letters that are small and tall, large and small?
Yes.
No one really knows where this tradition comes from, but it's an ancient tradition. Take a look at the following. Number 1, in Megillah Esther, in the list of the names of Haman's sons who are hanged, there are 4 unusual letters in the right column: a small Tuf, Shin, and Zayin, and a large Vav. The day after Haman and his 10 sons were hanged, Queen Esther asked King Achashverosh, if it shall please his majesty, allow the Jews who are in Shushan to act tomorrow as they did today, and let Haman's 10 sons be hanged on the gallows. But that's a surprising request, since they were already hanged the previous day. Stop there. Point number 2. Do you understand why this is a confusing verse in the Megillah? After Haman and his 10 sons are hung, Queen Esther comes into the king and says, can we do the same again tomorrow? That's a weird thing to say, right?
Yeah.
What do you mean, can we do the same thing again tomorrow? We just hung all of his 10 sons on a tree. We did that already. What do you mean, can we do it again?
It's against Jewish law to do that, to desecrate
Very
the
good.
bodies.
Very good.
It's a mitzvah. Zachor et Amalek.
Hang on. Let's take a look. Wait. On the 7th day of Sukkot festival, the judgment of the nations of the world is finalized. Sentences are issued from the residence of the king. Judgments are aroused and executed on that day. On the 7th day of Sukkot, in the year 5707, corresponding to October 16th, 1946, 10 cohorts to Hitler were hanged after being found guilty of crimes against humanity at the Nuremberg trials.
Uh-huh.
Newsweek magazine, October 28, 1946, ran a story on the hanging. 11 were to be hung, but Goering committed suicide in his cell shortly before the sentence was carried out. Only Julius Streicher went to the gallows without dignity. He had to be pushed across the floor, wild-eyed and screaming, Heil Hitler. Mounting the steps, he cried out, and now I go to God. He stared at the witnesses facing the gallows and shouted, Purim Fest, 1946.
Oh my
The
goodness.
Festival of Purim, 1946.
Oh, God.
Returning to the large and small letters in the names of Haman's sons, the large Vav equals 6, signifying the 6th millennium, from the years 5001 to 6000. The remaining 3 letters, Tuf 400, Shin 300, and Zayin 7, equals 707 of the 6th millennium, or the year 5707. 10 of Hitler's aides were hung on the 7th day of Sukkot in the year 5707 on October 16th, 1946. Thus were Haman's 10 sons hanged again on wooden beams, exactly as Queen Esther had requested.
That's unbelievable. So, Rabbi, could you mathematically tell us then which day the 10 Iranians will be hung?
I'm not able to know these things in advance ahead of time. I just buy Newsweek magazine after the fact.
And when war with Russia will finish, with Russia and Ukraine will finish?
Yeah, I'm not able to predict the future, but isn't that fascinating?
Mhm.
You'd like the source sheet for tonight, right? I'm gonna send out the source sheet. I'm really gonna send out the source sheet. So that is an unbelievable. That is really an unbelievable text and something to include. So I'm going to not have the source sheet here, unfortunately, alas. I wish I could, but I'm not able to send it to you. But I would like to leave you with that. Let's do a quick summary. Haman appears in the Torah in the Garden of Eden, indicating a gap between mankind and God. That gap is a mistake. It's an error of judgment on behalf of man. And when man thinks he can hide, God responds in kind by treating him the same way that he is treated. You think you can hide? I will then ask, where are you? That idea as a concept is given the word Hamin. Hamin ate? Did you eat from the tree? Did you really eat? And the word Hamin is the name Haman. Haman comes from the nation of Amalek, a nation that is constantly at war against the Jewish people. They are against the Jewish people because they don't believe God runs this world. They don't believe God has any connection to this world. They don't believe this world is meaningful. They believe this world is happenstance, chance, and randomness. An uncaring God does not involve himself in our lives. And that relationship of a war against Amalek takes place from generation to generation, always, never to end until the end of time. And any nation that should assume the identity that wishes to eradicate the Jewish people becomes ipso facto the nation of Amalek temporarily for the time period that they live in. And a hint is even given for the hanging of 10 Nazis at the Nuremberg trials on the exact date alluded to in the Torah, where Queen Esther is saying, please will you do this again tomorrow? We've hung 10 of Haman's sons today. Let us hang 10 more of Haman's sons tomorrow. And precisely on that date that was alluded to is the date when it happened. This is an eternal battle. And therefore, we are guaranteed and given a promise. There will come a time when we will overcome. The powers of evil will leave this world. The powers of darkness will fade. And goodness and light will overcome. As we say in the Megillah and every Saturday night at Havdalah, La Yehudim hayata ora b'simcha v'sasam b'yekar. To the Jewish people, there was joy and gladness, light and honor. Kain tieh lanu. So too may there be there for us. Amen.
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 Friends, I'm going to have to pause here for this evening. I do apologize to run off like this, but I'm juggling a couple of different things. I'm actually in a Shiva location, in an office upstairs at Shiva. I've had a crazy Mashugana day of juggling too many balls, but what I didn't want to do was cancel our class because I felt that it was worthwhile. So please excuse any interruptions. Someone walking behind me. Please excuse the fact that I'm in another office. And it was worth it to me to bend myself into a pretzel so we could learn Torah this evening. I hope you're well.
Thank you.
Hope you are
Thank you
healthy.
very much.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you. Thank you.
Stay
Thank you,
strong. Excuse the fact that we can't schmooze and discuss the ideas, but we will discuss the ideas. All the best, everybody. I wish you well.
Shabbat
Thank
shalom.
you.
Thank you.
Shabbat
Shabbat
shalom.
shalom.
Shabbat shalom.